This is the Philanthropy Show, connecting and inspiring philanthropy.
Welcome to the Philanthropy Show. I'm your host, Luann Saraga-Walters. Today's show is a 30-minute preview of an excellent course that I know you're going to want to dive deeper into. It's called Fundraising Success, Board Engagement, and Empowerment in the Fundraising Process. You got that right. It's about engaging your board in fundraising and what is the right way and the wrong way to do. Liz Wooten Reschke is our instructor extraordinaire who developed this curriculum. Thanks for coming with us today.
Thank you for having me.
What an incredible course. Tell us a little bit about what we're going to find in the full course.
Sure. Well, the full course really is an opportunity to kind of go soup to nuts of fundraising engagement on the board level. So we start with an introduction of fundraising process. We start with the opportunity to really talk about some of the basics of the nonprofit sector and why fundraising is important. We also talk about how board members can really get engaged.
I love that.
Yeah, so the big piece of it really is knowing where you're at now, kind of where you want to be, and how board members can both participate in fundraising and lead fundraising, because I think that's an important piece, that board members can lead fundraising. The other piece of it, of course, is assessing your efforts and celebrating your efforts, really taking the opportunity to look at what does that look like for our organization, what kind of culture of celebration of our fundraising success are we creating. We have a couple of special topics thrown in at the end as well.
It's a great, meaty course with 27 HD video lectures, and we're going to give you a sample with 3 of them today. Coming first, the 3 board roles and 10 responsibilities that every board member should know about and should be aware of, including some that are legal, right? Legally binding. Also, assessing your board's comfort level with fundraising. Are they ready? Do they know what to do? How comfortable are they? Are they eager? Are they not? There's a lot of ways to assess it, and Liz walks us through that. And finally, the board's role in the ask, which every development person wants to know. What are they doing? What are they supposed to be doing? What are they not supposed to be doing? And so Liz can walk us through that as well. So enjoy the show today, and if you want more information, we've included snippets in the breaks of how you can find out more about this amazing class. Board roles and responsibilities. I like that you've included both terms, roles and responsibilities in this, because I think a lot of times when we actually get board members onto our board, we don't necessarily, during the onboarding process, know how to train them. And I think what this lecture is actually addressing is the importance of what they're going to be doing, why they're going to be doing it, what they are held accountable for, and why, so you can actually do a better job of training them. So why both roles and responsibilities? What does that look like?
Well, for roles, and I'll just share with you, most of what we'll be discussing will be based on the BoardSource model of board governance.
Excellent.
So there are a lot of resources out there, but this is the one that's kind of my favorite. It's an opportunity really that breaks it down in a meaningful chunk. So for roles of a nonprofit board, you're really looking at 3 pieces. You're looking at providing adequate financial resources, you're looking at setting strategic direction, and then providing oversight. So that's the overarching theme of having that 3-piece. And when it comes to roles, there's always this great analogy about the 3-legged stool, that as a board, if you take away, say, providing financial oversight, but you still have the resources and have a plan, if you're not providing the oversight, the stool is going to fall over. So there's that 3-tiered piece of the necessary roles for an organization to be functional as a board, and for also, as far as fundraising fits into it, into providing the necessary resources.
Are you looking at every board member holding all 3 of these roles, or are you looking at maybe certain board members who have different skills? Maybe they're better in oversight, or maybe this person's better in the resource area, or do you go ahead and show them as a board member, here are the 3 roles that you're expected to play? How do you arrange that?
Well, the board as a whole is responsible for all of these pieces. I will lovingly tell you, I am not a numbers person. I'm not the person you want on your finance committee necessarily, but I am the person who might be your marketing, educational program, communications person. So yes, every board member is responsible for the role and responsibilities of ensuring adequate resources, providing oversight, and then also setting strategic direction. So there's the opportunity to learn a little bit in a skill set that you might not necessarily be comfortable. In my case, providing financial oversight. It might not be my comfort zone, but it is absolutely my legal duty as a board member.
Legal duty?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about that.
Well, there are 3 legal duties of a board: duty of care, duty of loyalty, and duty of obedience.
Okay.
And there are a lot of great details in that, but specifically as it relates to fundraising is the duty of care.
Wow.
And really the duty of care is where you are providing financial resources, either giving or getting, to get your mission work accomplished. And that really is the duty of care. And it's a legal duty.
And I know in the next lecture you want to talk more in detail about that. So I'm going to drive us back to that roles and responsibilities. So 3 main roles, and I like the expression of the stool, with the 3-legged stool, if you take one away. I've been on several boards. I've been on self-proclaimed working boards or self-proclaimed governing boards, but it doesn't matter if you're working or governing. You say, that's not what's driving this. That 3-legged stool needs to be on a working board and a governing board.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely. Well, and the difference between the boards is there's always some fun to say, I'm on a working board, I'm on a governance board. I think it really depends on your board culture, but a big piece of it, of course, is at the end of the day, are you being fiscally responsible? Are you providing the financial resources? And are you setting the strategic direction? I always lovingly say it is better to serve on a board than to sit on a board and take up space. You want to make sure you're legally responsible, but you're also ethically and morally responsible for your organization. That sounds like a T-shirt,
I serve versus sit. I like it. Yes. Well, now tell me about the responsibilities. You said there are 10 main board responsibilities.
Yes, and I love doing the 10 basic board responsibilities with individual boards or board members on a whole, because most of them go, wait a minute, there's 10? I'm not quite sure
that sounds like a lot. Oh my gosh.
Speaking about the onboarding process, as I always say, surviving board chair, surviving board officer, there's a lot you don't always know as board members. And so you get caught up in the, well, what am I supposed to do? We don't always, as nonprofits, educate our board members as soon as they come onto the system about what is expected of them. So the oversight of the 10 basic board responsibilities, the first and foremost is determining mission and purpose. Okay. Now, a lot of times you walk in, there's a mission already established, but the purpose and how you meet the mission really comes out of that. Selecting the CEO or the ED or the lead organization, if it's a program director, is another big piece of that. And there's several more as well, but as far as ensuring the nonprofit, it's providing assets and ensuring adequate financial resources. So those are kind of the 2 that come into fundraising.
That's interesting that that's actually a designated responsibility.
Absolutely.
I don't think, I would bet there are a lot of nonprofits not aware of that. Or maybe thinking, well, wouldn't it be great if our board members could help us with, but not realizing that it's an actual, and this is BoardSource, this is interesting. And just to clarify for those who may not know what BoardSource is, let's tell them what that is. Sure,
absolutely. BoardSource is a national organization. It is dedicated to educating board members, consultants, and nonprofits about board service. And it is, if you're interested, look at boardsource.org. They've got a number of resources, conferences, et cetera, that might be of use to you. BoardSource is recognized as the national source for all things board for nonprofits. Yes.
So what are some others that we have? We've got you talked about 2 that were pertaining to fundraising, talking about finding your CEO or executive director, or if it's a large program that's the essence of your organization, helping with the What are some others?
Well, the interesting thing about fundraising to me is that it's all encompassing. So a couple of the other responsibilities are about enhancing the organization's standing.
What does that mean?
Well, it also in the community. Are you a reputable organization that people want to give to? Do you have good community relationships? Are you a good community partner? So that's where the piece of enhancing the organizational structure comes into fundraising. Fair discredit, I also was a former fundraiser, so I kind of love fundraising. I love that opportunity to engage board members in that. I think what comes out of that is the opportunity to really think through how do you ensure adequate resources, because if you don't have a reputation that is a partnership, if you don't have a reputation in the community, is that you're a good steward of the donor.
And a community player.
Yes, yes. Then you will not receive that funding and you will not be able to accomplish your responsibilities. I think another piece of it as well is ensuring legal and ethical integrity. When people donate to an organization, whether you're an individual or a corporation, whether you're a grant, a funder of some kind, you really have the opportunity to empower donors and to share with them, is what we're doing legally, but ethically, to meet our mission and to be direct to our community that we serve, here's where we operate. And communicating our story as part of the fundraising process, as part of donor stewardship.
And I just had an aha moment, because I think a lot of times we look at the board members that we want to recruit based on what the skill sets are that they have that they can bring to us. But it's also about what they play, what roles they play in the community, because if you're looking to really enhance your nonprofit's reputation or increase its standing in the community, and you have somebody from a law firm that is very well respected, that name and that person's reputation that they're bringing with them kind of does help coach your organization in a nice glossy sheen to say, if this person is working with them on their board, then they must be okay.
Right. There's an absolute lot of peace that comes from having kind of those mega donors in the community. No matter what community you're in, you have those folks who have their names on buildings, who are seen in the arts community quite a bit, who are seen in the philanthropic community as well. Kind of those recognizable names. And now we all think we need those people on the board, and they're great as far as door openers. But when you come to your board, really thinking about the responsibility of what kind of standing you need in the community, it's starting at square one. And so we are going to talk about board culture. We're going to start about being where your feet are at in the fundraising world. But I think an important piece of it is who are your folks who are dedicated to your mission, who are connected in your community, and who also know and understand the responsibilities that are required them of a board member. And also, you know, I believe one of the number one responsibilities is fundraising. And there are a lot of different tiers of that.
And remember, she said fundraising is one of those 3 roles, and it's also at least two of the 10 responsibilities that BoardSource has listed. So let's head into the next lecture, because I know you had briefly mentioned there's a legal obligation for that, and there's also the ethical that we want to take a look at. So join us in the next lecture as we take a look at why do board members need to fundraise, and we'll see you there.
How do you engage and empower your board in the fundraising and development process? How do you know if your board has the right mix or is ready to enter the process? In Fundraising Success, Board Engagement and Empowerment in the Fundraising Process, you will learn basic board roles and legal responsibilities of board members, how to discover your board's culture and play to its strengths, the right ways to educate and motivate your board in development, how to recruit board members who are skilled in fundraising, and much more. Using HD video lectures and downloadable resource documents you can use year after year, this course will quickly become your go-to guide for understanding how to educate, engage, and empower your board to become a fundamental support in your organization's fundraising process. Join today, and we'll see you in class. Enroll today at thephilanthropyshow.com.
So now it's time to look at how do you find out how comfortable your board members are with fundraising. And this might be interesting if you've actually never had an expectation for it, never had a conversation around it. Wow. So let's start with the basics of it. How do you go about finding out what their comfort level is?
Well, there's a couple different ways that I always like to go about it, whether I'm serving on a board or serving a board in a facilitation mode. There's actually a great resource, as I said, BoardSource 40 kind of things that you can do to fundraise. So one of the things I do as far as kind of rubber to the road is show folks that list and have them look through it and say, what is one thing that I'm doing really well as an individual, and what is one thing that I could maybe try? So that gets the conversation going. You have the conversation either at the board level or on the individual level, depending on comfort level. But for those that either don't have that checklist or feel like my board would totally balk at 40 things to fundraise, that would be so scary, really taking the step back and saying to your board members, you know, we've noticed that you fundraise. How have you felt about that? How, you know, really engaging in the conversation with the organization to say with your board members, how have you fundraised in the past? What about your other board service? What do you like that you're learning from there? There are a lot of organizations who have board members who serve on multiple boards or who have served. And so really kind of, I don't want to say stealing, but kind of learning what they do in their board that's worked for fundraising is helpful for your organization too. You can find out if it's a good fit.
Well, you know, it's not stealing, because I've heard that respect, the highest form of respect is to mimic something somebody else is doing that's working. So that's good. So just having the conversation with the board members. And what do you find out if I mean, in a perfect world, again, that utopia, everybody says, oh, I love it, or I'd like to learn how to do it more, or I like to develop new skill sets, so help me do that. But what if somebody just is like, oh, I'm scared to death of this, I don't like talking to people about money, I don't want to ask, it's the worst thing in the world, I break out in hives, I sweat, I get pitted, I'm just, what do you do?
Right. Well, the interesting thing is I think there might be a lot of CEOs, executive directors, or even CDOs out there that are going, I wish I had 10 board members that all love to ask. And I would caution you with that, because the ask is one piece of the fundraising process. You need the relationship builders. You need the folks who like thanking and acknowledging. There's really a big piece of it all comes full circle. So I know we all want a couple, but I think it's about identifying your strengths and knowing that not everyone is going to be comfortable asking.
Oh, that's true.
Not everybody is comfortable asking.
And nor do you want somebody who's not naturally comfortable and enthusiastic in it doing the ask.
Right.
There's another part of this series, Fundraising Success, the Complete Development Plan. Sarah Leonard talks about some of that with your board and with other volunteers that you may have. Don't put them in charge of the ask if they're not really fully capable and confident in doing it.
Right.
So what are the other areas then that you're looking at? If they're not, maybe they're comfortable with, hey, I meet people all the time, I'm a networker.
Right. I think there's a lot of opportunity for conversation with your board members about what is your comfort level with fundraising and honoring. I always say this is kind of the honoring humanity section. Professional fundraisers are used to the word no. So having a professional fundraiser either on your staff or on your board, and we'll talk about that more in another section, you really have the opportunity to have somebody who's experienced with that resilience, who knows that a no is not necessarily a no forever. It might be a no for now, it might be a no for that. But knowing then that those other folks, other board members, other executives have the opportunity to really say, okay, I'm not comfortable asking, but you know what I would really love to do? I would really love to give someone a tour of our facility. I would really love for someone to see our clients in action. I would really love to be able to present, for example, to my Rotary about what we do, because I so love our mission. That's part of fundraising. That's part of that entirety of the process piece. That the ask is the end goal. The ask and the solicitation of the gift is the end goal. It's not the entire process through.
So would you, in part of assessing their comfort level, would you also have included in that conversation to say, and I'm not just talking about the ask, but I'm also talking about how do you feel about these other aspects of fundraising, just to kind of get a feel for where they are?
I think it's, when you say fundraising, people think, oh, I'm going to have to ask all my friends for money. Great, I can see them run. That's not what it's about. It's about the opportunity to empower people. We've talked a lot about board service, we've talked about being a donor, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later, but being able to give a gift to an organization that you care about is an incredibly selfish and honorable piece. You get a lot more out of giving than you do necessarily by receiving. So having the opportunity to empower a donor and to ask your board members, how do you feel when you give to our organization or another? How do people do it really well? How do people maybe kind of miss the boat on engaging you? And it's a little bit of an education process, right? It's how do you get your board ready on the comfort level side before you even get into educating your board about what they can do to help move fundraising forward in your organization.
So that step one is to gauge their comfort level with it.
Right.
Because then step two is really assessing your board's readiness. So some of them, I'm ready. Some of them, not so much. But they might be slightly ready or nearly ready, and we're going to look at that in the next lecture.
Do you feel like you're on a hamster wheel of fundraising activities, trying to meet a goal that's always just out of reach? Then join us in Fundraising Success, the Complete Development Plan, a discussion-style course designed for both brand new fundraisers and experienced professionals to help you create a development plan to increase your fundraising results. Select the fundraising activities that actually work for your organization. Set achievable financial goals and meaningful strategic goals. Create a useful timeline of fundraising activities, and much more. If you're ready to create your complete development plan using resources you can use again and again to modify your plan annually, then enroll today, and we'll see you in class. Enroll today at thephilanthropyshow.com.
We've talked through several lectures about how your board members, or how you as a board member, may have different skills, abilities, desires in helping you participate in your overall fundraising. So what if you do have, or what if you are, a board member who really does feel comfortable doing the ask and wants to approach somebody? What does that role look like? So let me ask about that, because I know that some nonprofits feel that they don't necessarily, they don't have a comfort level if they know that their board member is not per se a trained development person, that they might want them to shy away from the ask. And if you've got somebody who's enthusiastic, who's maybe got the skill set toward it, let me just put this in your lap and tell us what should happen. What's the board's actual role for that ask?
Well, when it comes to the ask, I think you kind of have to reverse it and to say, are these enthusiastic people capable of making the ask? And I don't mean are they capable as human beings. I think if people are excited about the mission, they are great at connecting with people, they are absolutely poised in a position to be able to make the ask.
Passion makes purpose.
Yes. And so I think there's an opportunity when it comes to the ask to inform them, to really help them understand what an ask can look like. And this is where having a development professional kind of in your cadre of expertise and well connected with your board really helps move things forward. You can sit down and for someone who's never participated in an ask and say, okay, so walk me through this. What would this look like? What has the experience been? Maybe, for example, for someone who's interested in a board member who wants to start asking, you invite them to an ask where they don't ask at all.
Okay.
Where they just get an opportunity. Yeah, it's almost like modeling, but also kind of like cross-training a little bit, isn't it? You have an opportunity. If you've ever been to a restaurant and someone will say, oh, this is so-and-so, they're training today, and I'll be training them. That's a really, actually kind of great way with a prospective donor to say, hi, this is so-and-so. They're not going to be asking you for anything today, but they're getting ready to participate in a bigger way in our fundraising because they're really excited about our mission. So they're going to kind of hear what I say to you today. We want your honest feedback about how it goes, whether or not we get some success.
Well, that's interesting because that makes that one instance also less, hardcore. It almost makes it just more pleasant, more, okay, it's a conversation.
Right. Well, and I think, when it comes to board members, there's the opportunity to talk about what it looks like. What does an ask look like? But I think there's also about framing the conversation. So I had the opportunity recently to meet Carol Wiseman of Board Builders, and she presented to a local chapter of our Association of Fundraising Professionals. And so a couple things that she shared that I think are poignant here. When you are engaging donors, it is about their story. It's not about your story. I mean, we want these mission moments, we want these elevator speeches so that we have a framework, but at the end of the day, it's about connecting our mission to the donors. And if we've done our research, we know that they have a connection. We know perhaps what the connection is, and we might know where we go from that connection, but we also want to make sure it's a conversation. It's not a just, hi, nice to meet you, we need your money. It is, hi, we've heard you're interested, or you've been giving for years, have you considered making a larger gift, etc. Another piece of that comes into, it's about making connections. I think as social creatures, as humans, we all, most of us on our best days, want some sort of social interaction. We want some sort of social connection. So if we can create our board members when it's coming to the ask of being, it's not just about asking for money. It's about connecting our donors with our mission and matching our belief systems. Because really, if they're a donor in your organization, they probably see value in your mission. Most people don't sign over an amount of money, significant or otherwise, unless they believe in the work that you're doing. So it's really an opportunity to do that. The other piece of it where I love including board members in kind of a paired ask is that fundraisers as a kind of genre are very resilient. And we talked about this earlier where every no is one step closer to a yes.
Absolutely.
It's kind of like, okay, so we realize that this isn't the right fit for you, or this amount didn't make sense to you as a donor. Help us understand what didn't make sense. Help us understand maybe where we went wrong. And when it comes to prospecting, if you're not interested in giving our organization, what do you think that we hit on the notch? What do you think we could do really well? Your donors are a great source of information, and a lot of time we'll be very honored that philanthropically that they're experts. So to be able to say, what worked for you? Where did we miss the mark? And again, that's where you bring a board member into a kind of a group ask scenario and say, this is so-and-so, they're learning. really want your input from the donor perspective on how we're doing.
You know, I like this exercise, not just from the standpoint that it's benefiting the board member and learning how to do it, but it also gives you a chance to really reflect on your fundraising tactics and skills.
Yes.
And you can use it all the time. I mean, you really can use it all the time. A board member who might have gone on 3 or 4 asks already and is asking themselves could still be sitting in and listening,
Right.
so that you have the opportunity to talk with your donors or potential donors and find out, you know, how often do you have a conversation in your development team or among your staff or among your board and say, well, they didn't give, but I think that maybe they're just not ready, or I think that maybe we asked too much. And if there's any I thinks in there, you don't know.
Right.
And what you're saying is find out, get the
Absolutely.
learn the skills to do it, because let's go back to 4 or 5 lectures ago. This is not about begging.
No.
This is about lining up what Liz just said, lining up the donor's heart, their passion with your organization. And if there's a fit there, and there's still not a gift, then there's something else that they need to tell you about.
Right.
Maybe they're not in the position financially at that moment to be able to gift something, but they really want to. And so they say, you know what, next month I'm going to.
Right, or there's an opportunity in that case to also get a pledge. So there's a great opportunity as far as success of fundraising pairs. I've seen it work very well where a board member and a development professional, CEO or otherwise, work together, that they'll go on a couple of different asks, either with the same donor or others, and you'll see this kind of dynamic shift happen, where the board member starts off maybe somewhat silent, and then kind of works up courage to be in a different role, that by the end of it, they're the ones doing the ask. And what a great opportunity and a way to empower your board members as ambassadors, which is another role that they play, another hat that board members have, to really move forward with that duty of fundraising for your organization.
And it's in a comfortable learning environment.
Yes.
For everybody.
For everyone, yes.
Yeah,
For
I
everyone.
really like that. That's top notch. Well, thank you, Liz. So the next question that we want to find out an answer to is, what is the board's role in stewardship? And Liz has the answer in our next lecture. We'll see you there.